Hello YouTubers, welcome back. It's a snow day here, so I thought, well, since it's a snow day on a Sunday and we're not really missing school, I might as well record some lessons. So me and my kids got to make some fun stuff in the snow earlier today, so now I'll make you sit and watch some fun videos about Europe and the Western world during the industrial era. So we're going to look between 1750 and 1900 now, and specifically at the rise of some nationalist movements and their roots in Europe and the West. So we'll start with the population revolution, we'll go with the American Revolution, the French Revolution, nationalism, and then we'll end with Napoleon Bonaparte. So, and we might throw in a bonus industrial revolution. So you guys understand the Industrial Revolution was essentially when nations began to use different forms of energy and production in order to increase their economic advantages over other nations in the world. So their increased use of fossil fuels like coal and oil, and the use of products like steel and machines that used steam engines and oil internal combustion engines were able to produce a factory system, which then enabled them to mass produce items, which shifted the economy from a farming economy to a production economy. And so this is the key to being an industrialized nation. So that the Industrial Revolution really helped these Western European nations get an advantage economically, and then, as we'll see later on, militarily as well. So I will throw a link to the Industrial Revolution video that I like up here somewhere, right around here. And so let's move forward with the rest. So the population revolution was basically sorry, I'm baking a pie. Population revolution was a direct product of the Industrial Revolution. So Western nations that were industrialized experienced a population boom, a population revolution, because all of a sudden birth rates, maternal mortality rates, which means women who die during childbirth, gets better because medicine's better. Babies and children live more frequently because up until this point in time, most children, not most children, but a good third to half of children who were born died before they were out of childhood, and so parents would have more children after that, and people were living longer lives in general because of increased medicine and care. And so what these industrialized nations went through was a boom in population, and this was significant because it not only stabilized birth rates and allowed people to have some planning, family planning, but it also allowed people a more stable workforce in general and more time to kind of spend with their families. So no longer are people having children just to create workers for their farm. They're having children just kind of for the fun of having children. Kind of the same reason we have children in today's industrialized nations is because we feel like it's our duty and we enjoy having them around for the most part. So that's the population revolution. Now, a couple other key political revolutions were happening around the same time. The American Revolution happened first. In the 1770s, the American colonists from Great Britain were starting to really be upset by the British burdens that were being placed on them. It's not so much heavy taxation, but it was just that they didn't have representation in Parliament, so they didn't feel like the taxes were fair. And then they also had to go through Britain when it came to trade and contacts with other nations. They had no control over their own foreign affairs. They just basically felt like it was time to break up with Great Britain, like they didn't have as much in common anymore. And so the American Revolution was fought after the Declaration of Independence, which said, you know, when it comes time that you are abusing your powers, we're going to break away and form our own power. And so the American Revolution resulted in an American nation, which was brand new and using a brand new and kind of revolutionary new type of government. It created the Constitution, and the American Constitution basically guaranteed that there would never be another absolute monarch in charge, and that the people would be able to kind of determine how the nation was going to be governed. So even though the people, by people they meant rich white males, and so that was interesting. Now the French Revolution was fought shortly after the American Revolution, and it was in a lot of ways inspired by the American Revolution, and they were attempting to throw off the monarch as well. But instead of having a very easy time of getting rid of their monarch, they weren't declaring independence. They were just trying to get rid of the monarchy and change into a freer, more enlightened society type of government. This is a lot messier than the American Revolution because it wasn't just a clean break. It was basically a civil war in France, which lasted for years, and it ended in a lot of people dying. It ended with a constitutional government, which eventually they killed the king and queen. They kind of swung to the very liberal, progressive side of things, and then that got out of hand as they became more dictatorial, and then they kind of swung back to, at the end of this, getting basically an emperor, Napoleon, who we'll talk about in just a second. They also grew, the movement ended in heavy French nationalism, and nationalism is that pride or devotion to your country, which you start to feel when you feel like you are part of one of the greatest countries on earth. And a lot of Western nations at this time started to change their education systems and try to encourage people to have these nationalistic feelings about their country and government. It creates a very strong and united population. Now, we mentioned Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon Bonaparte was important because he signaled kind of the end of the French Revolution. He took control as an emperor of France and then ended up spreading, by virtue of trying to conquer all of Europe, spreading some of these ideas of the Enlightenment that were being used in France, universal male suffrage and giving people a voice in government, spread all the way to Russia, all throughout Europe, because Napoleon tried to basically take over all of Western Europe. And he ended up, his lasting impact was to spread some of these ideals all throughout Europe, and we started to see the end of absolute monarchies all throughout Europe in favor of constitutional governments. So that's kind of the main gist of those first few vocab words that I had you focus on for this unit. I'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more about political unification in Italy and Germany and disunity in the United States. So stay tuned for that, and be awesome. Enjoy the snow in between studying.